In today's home gym world, the options are plentiful, but in today's video, I'm going to take $1,500 and pick what I think are the most economical options from Rogue, Rep, and Titan Fitness. All right, so let's kick things off with Rogue and the centerpiece of any gym, which is going to be the power rack or squat stand, whatever you're going to be lifting off of, because for squatting and benching, these things are going to be a necessity. With Rogue, I can already tell you, because this is more of a budget-friendly suggestion, we're not going to see any 6-post monster racks on here. Spoiler alert. So let's jump into squat stands. Let's sort these from low to high. Some of these things we can strike, like the kids squat stand, a conversion kit, which might be misleading if you're not familiar with Rogue and their offerings, because you're basically just paying for this back piece here. It really kicks off with the Rogue S1 squat stand for $395. We're going to avoid foldable things just because I don't want people to have to get into installing those. Some more traditional options, the Rogue SML1. Main difference between these two, besides the $5 price range, is you're getting 3x3 here, and up here in the S1, you're getting 2x3. So I think it probably makes the most sense to stick to 3x3 things, just because that opens more accessories from both Rogue and from other providers, if that is something you are interested in. So trying to take that into account. And what I'm looking at here as I scroll down is some of these things start to get pretty expensive, especially as we move into like the monster line. So I think the best bang for your buck that you'll actually probably be able to get in here is going to be the SML2 90-inch Monster Light squat stand. So a couple of caveats here. If you don't have high enough ceilings, then this one is probably off the table. You could get the SML1, which is 70 inches. But I like the 90-inch version, number one, because it gives you more options on the uprights. It also comes with a pull-up bar, so that kind of gives you more versatility in movements that you can do. And also I like this, again, over the S2, just because, again, you're limited with options for accessories. So taking a look at this is pretty standard. You get everything you need for the most part outside of spotter arm. So I'm not going to worry about that just yet, because, again, this is kind of bang for your buck type deal. And if you want to drop the money, you can, but that's probably going to exceed what we're looking for. So you can add some things in here. You can add a bar in. We will add a bar, but not through this drop down, just because I think there are better options for the majority of people lifting. Although you could add an Ohio bar and black zinc, which is a good value at $300. I am going to add a bench in here, which is just the 2.0 flat utility bench. I'm not getting into adjustable benches in this case, because, again, it's kind of a bare bones setup, but the best of the bare bones that you can get through any of these providers. That's going to add $195 to the cost, so $695. So we're almost at halfway through our $1,500 goal here. I'm not going to add plates in this option just because I'm going to take a look at some of them. But what I will tell you is you don't save any money by adding these in here. But this is going to be the rack that we'll be using for our Rogue build, which again is the SML2 Rogue 90-inch Monster Light squat stand. All right, so next, let's look at barbells. We have the rack. You need a bar to put on it. I mentioned already, I did not want to go the Ohio bar route, although that is a very solid option for most. The main reasons I'm not going an Ohio bar for this build is, number one, it doesn't come in bare steel, which is going to lower the price. So again, I'm keeping that in mind. And also, just generally speaking, for a lot of benching, squatting, or deadlifting movements, which I assume the people watching this are going to want to do, I prefer a 29 millimeter bar, which also has a center knurling, which the Ohio bar does not. So the easy way to sort by this is I'm going to go by bar use. I'm going to switch to powerlifting, and we're going to get a ton of different options on here. The Ohio Power Bar, for my money, is the best bar for most people, mainly because it comes in so many different varieties, and I could probably do a standalone video on this itself, but we're going to get the bare steel version, which is $275. Depending on your budget, again, for me, my goal is to stick below $1,500 in total, but you could potentially go with Cerakote or stainless steel or zinc. That's going to add to the cost. We're going to go with a bare steel here and assume that you're okay with a little bit of upkeep. Again, the reason I like this, 29 millimeters, very good knurling for all three main lifts. Made in USA, high quality, lifetime warranty. It literally is the best bar for most people. All right, so we have our rack, we have our flat bench, we have our bar. Now we need something to load onto it. Now, Rogue has a ton of options for weights, but I will say, for the most part, generally speaking, when you're building out your home gym, it makes a lot more sense to try to buy locally, especially secondhand with weights. Typically can be had for $1 a pound or less. But for the point of this video and exercise, we are going to buy the weights directly through a one-stop shop type experience. So we're going to look at Rogue plates, a lot of different options, as I mentioned. What you'll find is the most economical tend to be the standard barbell steel plates, or even these Rogue Echo bumpers, depending on if you're interested in bumpers or not. I think for the most part for us, though, we're going to stick with this because that's going to be the same case throughout the course of all of these examples that we give. These are easy to grip, easy to load. They're fairly accurate. There is going to be some variance, but again, you get what you pay for in this case. For me, I'm just going to add a single pair of most of the main plates on here, which is a 5 through a 45. That's going to give us roughly 250 pounds of weights, which is a good amount for someone to either bench or squat, especially when first building their gym. Now, obviously, if you are super strong, have been training in a commercial gym for a long time, you will probably need more weights than this. But again, for the point of developing a gym for $1,500 or less through some of the major brands, it's just what it is, what it is. So if you need more, you can. Just know you're probably going to push that envelope. But we're looking at about $457-ish for about 250-ish pounds of weight. All right, so let's just recap what we've gotten so far and take a look at our final. So overall, we have around 250-ish pounds of weights. Again, the standard barbell style, which you are probably more than familiar with. And even though Rogue prides itself on being made in the USA, there are products that are imported. These ones in particular are in that, so they're not going to be the most tolerant or the cleanest plates around. But again, you get what you pay for, as I've already said, and I will continue to say numerous times throughout the course of this video. For barbell, we have a Rogue 45-pound Ohio power bar in bare steel. Yes, you will have to have some upkeep on it, but it is a fantastic bar overall. And you actually have a little bit of wiggle room in our budget if you wanted to upgrade to at least the black zinc, maybe even the Cerakote. That would be up to you, but bare steel for most is going to be fine. Would just require some oil and brushing every now and then. We have an SML2 Rogue 90-inch Monster Light squat stand with a pull-up bar up top. This is great because it would take any 3x3 accessories with 5/8-inch hardware. So a lot of versatility you can add to this. It takes up a very small footprint, and again, will allow us to bench and squat as well as do pull-ups in it. And we did add on this Rogue flat utility bench, which typically retails for $195. I didn't do a separate portion on this because there's not a ton of flat benches through Rogue, and this one is the most economical for the price. So all in for this, for a basic gym startup through Rogue, we're looking at $1,427. Now, a key thing to note here is number one, that is before tax. So tax will be added on to most of these purchases through all the companies. We're not going to add that to the total price because I'm just looking at equipment builds for $1,500 or less. And in Rogue's case, not all shipping is free. So the grand total, even though our equipment is at $1,427, would be more around $1,900. So you're looking at like an additional, $500 almost in some cases for taxes and shipping here, but still a very viable setup, albeit a very economical one. All right, so this concludes our first part of this series talking about equipment providers in the United States and a $1,500 budget, $1,427 for Rogue Fitness. How do we do? What would you change? Join us for the other parts where we talk about rep, tighten, and then compare all three. In the meantime, as always, thanks for watching and stay big.